Affordability continues to be a widespread issue. About 31% of all households in King County are cost burdened, meaning that they spend more than 30% of their income on housing. That jumps to 45% for renters specifically, and even in South King County specifically, it's closer to 60%. So we see large disparities across cost burdening in the county. There is also a serious shortage of larger rental units. I think this is a specific piece of the original research that the county asked us to dive into, particularly in 3 to 4 bedroom homes that lower income families need. This leads to overcrowding and forces many families to rent up, stretching their housing costs beyond what they can afford just to find enough space to house themselves. The scale of the need is pretty dramatic. To meet King County's housing goals for households below 80% of area median income, we need to build roughly 178,000 new income restricted units by 2044. That will take an estimated $80 billion in capital investment, and that's in 2025 dollars. But that's only actually part of the equation. We also then need to find an additional $111 billion just to operate those structures and provide the supportive services that those households will need for that 40-year period through once those housing units are built. This is extremely and especially true for the housing that serves our lowest income households in the county.
Understanding you said it better than I could in the moment, but this is a pervasive issue that has, it's been a challenging thing to overcome. So basically what you're saying is the market says larger, multiple bedroom, multifamily rental, the likelihood of them being built depends on basically a higher income bracket. And until that changes, potentially the market says it's going to be difficult to get those built. So if I have a big family and I have a lower wage, having access to that type of housing is challenging for me as a parent. So I would just say as a parent, the space I need is defined by the income that I make.
So when we think about the cost to sort of build and operate these facilities, we're looking for those 178,000 units through 2044. It's going to cost us roughly $115 billion in 2025 dollars. So it's a, and this is not sort of unique to publicly supported housing. All housing is very expensive to build, and so how do we pay for all that? So the first chunk actually comes from the renters themselves, right? They in a lot of these units. At 80% and below, they are paying some income restricted rental prices that help support the development and operation of those projects. That's roughly about $19 billion. When we then, go to the next one here, when we then layer on all the available federal, state subsidies to build and operate and support the households in these units, we have another $30 billion of subsidies. And then when we do the simple math of subtracting that 115 from what's available, we're left with a gap of roughly $66 billion that we're trying to solve for. And I think this, if we kind of go back to the very beginning slide of showing the progress we've made since the regional task force established the target of 44,000 units, and we've only gone a portion of the way there, the gap here is probably not surprising. A lot of it is we just don't have the dollars in order to sort of execute on the need that we've identified for our populations.
One of the big takeaways as I read this is we probably can't value engineer our way out of such a big hole, but we absolutely have to do some value engineering here. We have to figure out a way not just to raise the money that is needed and take the costs as given. We have to figure out a way to drive the costs down, or we're just not going to meet our goals. And so I think it's going to be a balance. I really look forward to taking all this information on board and putting it to use as we plan our policy approaches going forward.